Today, we get to do a recap show talking about a DFS slate where there were actual points scored, and I could not be happier to discuss it. It was a fun Sunday. Just have lineups that actually did something, had a pulse, got us some money. We're going to break down what it all means going forward, key rule changes, note injuries, and much more as we recap week 8 and look ahead to week number 9. This is the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here as always by Brandon Gadula. He is the senior managing editor of numberFire.com. Brandon, happy Halloween to you. How you doing today?
I'm good. We had some points scored last week, I guess yesterday for those listening on Monday. But look, this game wasn't on the main slate, but I learned a lot from the Packers. We're like, let's just slow it down. Let's not rush into things. You might be down 17, but just, let's enjoy the ride and, we'll get there when we get there.
Brandon, good teams win. Great teams cover. Packers were great last night. I don't know what you're talking about. Slow things down to ensure Buffalo doesn't throttle you so that Jim can cash his plus 10.5 because Jim had a terrible betting day beyond that. Tangent. My NASCAR bets this week were placed in a book that counts inspection. Brad Keselowski got disqualified. So I lost money and I needed to pick me up despite having a good DFS day. So honestly, hail to the Packers, man. I think that they had the right approach. More power to them. Not more pace to them. Just ride it out, baby. Cash those tickets.
Yeah, I mean, look, and hey, based on the Packers' philosophy, maybe there's still time for Brad Keselowski to catch up. Maybe he can get back into it.
Yeah.
It's like Larry Bird said, you never lose, you just run out of time. But for the Packers, they're
Brad
never going to run out of time.
And I feel like there's no real analogy here. The running backs on the week 8 slate were like Ross Chastain, full send, all gas, no brakes, use the wall as a retaining thing, and you get to just cruise your way to glory. We're going to break down what those running backs did and the implications of it and much more. But Brandon, I feel like for me, from an overall vibes perspective for week 8, it was nice to kind of get a throwback slate where we actually had big point totals. So it wasn't my most profitable slate of all time. I had a good week. I had a very good week. It was a nice week, but it was not my best week of all time in terms of profitability. But I just felt better at having actual points scored on Sunday. So I feel like my mood was better as a result of that. So it was kind of fun to get a throwback slate almost.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you look at the live leaderboard on FanDuel, you see Alvin Kamara, AJ Brown, Christian McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry all scoring over 35 FanDuel points. That takes me back to Heat Check glory days where it's
yeah,
look,
baby.
You get the running backs who are destined to score multiple times, have over 100, 1,550 scrimmage yards, whatever the case is for those guys. There's a receiver who goes off, but it's okay because we hit on the running backs. And, we both liked McCaffrey this week a good bit. We both talked about Derrick Henry and said that there was a very clear path to his doing what he did. But, we also had right below that Tony Pollard and Deontay Foreman. So it was
don't gloss over Alvin Kamara, who was the top love for both of us. I know he was very popular, but let's not disregard that too.
Well, I led off with him because he scored the most points.
Because he's the best player on the planet.
Sure. And look, finally, because we were talking about, you talk more about his red zone role than I do, so credit to you. But
he scored twice outside the red zone. I don't get credit for that. It was so fluky.
Well, it's just a matter of getting the ball in your hands, being good, and not having scored. That stuff matters.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the stuff that we're looking for today. Who's underperforming based on their role and how does that affect week 9, which is weird to say. I was writing out the tweet and I was like, let me be the first to say, Jim, I can't believe it's already week 9.
continue the bit for the rest of the year now, I think, at this point. We're going to break down week 9 in just 1 second and get set. Break down what happened this past week, break down Christian McCaffrey's new role, Travis Etienne as the lead back for the Jaguars, and much more. But first, we're going to talk about week number 9. You can actually get your week 9 lineups entered right now over on FanDuel.com. The Sunday Million for week 9 is already posted. $1.4 million in total prizes. A $5 entry fee could turn into $250,000 for you. Almost 25% of the field gets paid in this contest. It's a nice little contest structure for the top end GPP over on FanDuel. Again, $5 entry, 150 entries max, $1.4 million in total prizes, $250,000 to first place. If you want to fill out that lineup as we go along throughout the day, go to FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app. Eligibility restrictions apply. Also, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Tom Vecchio is back with the Daily ISO every weekday, breaking down NBA DFS. We, of course, have PGA coming up tomorrow, I think. There's an event this week. Yeah, cool. Okay. Look ahead, Jim. We have an event this weekend as well. I will have the final NASCAR podcast of the year coming up on later on this week to break down Phoenix, talk more about Ross Chastain and Christopher Bell there as well. All right here in the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. So make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Let's take a look now at week number 8. What we saw there in the headliner for week number 8 was the new roles for Christian McCaffrey and Travis Etienne. Etienne, of course, playing in the London games, not in the main slate, but his role without James Robinson was as good as you could have asked for. He had 24 carries and 3 targets. He turned that into 162 yards, but he had a 77% snap rate. He had 6 out of 8 red zone chances. Like, he had a fumble in the red zone last week, which is like, a little pause because maybe they'll scale it back. Nope. Full lean into it. The low negative is that he did lose some routes. JaMychal Hasty ran a route on 17 of 33 dropbacks, but he's a legitimate featured back. So they're at home against Vegas next week, which might be sneakily one of the better games on the main slate. So, Brandon, name that salary on Travis Etienne.
Yes, I mean, he did lose some routes, but still had a 52% route rate, caught all 3 of those targets, and we just know that he's really explosive after the catch and just with the ball in his hands. The red zone roll, fantastic. 49 rushing yards over expectation, but still that means that he was had an expected rushing output of about 107 yards, which is phenomenal. That way, if you don't have the best game, you don't have those breakaway plays, that workload is still great. So
it means he's getting like good schemed touches. Like, they're getting him the ball and he's not running up the gut for like a yard. Like, they're getting him creative touches.
63% rushing success rate according to the next gen stats model, which is quite high. So you love what you see. Trying to come up with some comps from what last week's salaries were, just to get like context. I know Kenneth Walker was 84. Dalvin, I think, was like 83. I'd probably put ETN at like 83, 84.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, I think that Walker is like not the worst comp for it because they actually have pretty similar roles. Like, they'll lose some routes, but like efficient upside. They've got some explosion to them. So
offenses
I'd say
that are capable but not flawless.
Yeah, well, Gino's flawless. Let's
Okay.
not come
Okay.
on. How dare you? It's funny that the Geno Smith is the guy. I'm getting mad at you for besmirching not the 2021 first overall pick. I think that 83 is about appropriate. And for next week, Travis Etienne is $7,600. He is a write down, correct?
Let's write that one down.
Okay. He's going to be very popular, but also I don't care. Like, sometimes chalk is chalk for a reason. That game's going to be sick. I don't mind considering a pivot to like the Jaguars passing game potentially at some point, but like, I don't care, honestly.
So we're going to see draft percentage numbers go up because it's a 10-game main slate.
Yeah.
So, and frankly, some of the better teams are off the main slate, including the Eagles, Baltimore, Dallas, San Francisco. So we'll be without a few key options at quarterback, running back, obviously, some wide receivers there, but I still think that ECN is going to shape up as Knowing Travis Etienne's salary at 76, it's hard to envision a better play without knowing the rest of the slate. That
Yeah,
seems like
like
it's going
unless
to be
some like
hard to
weird
beat.
injury pops up, like it's hard to get better than that.
Yeah,
Like
it's going to be hard to beat.
Like he has a very similar, not the same role as Alvin Kamara, but like it's a similar-ish role. And I loved Kamara at 78 at home against the Raiders this week. I think having ETN at 76 is going to be maybe not equally as fun as that, but like there are similarities.
I would push back on that a little bit because Alvin Kamara's had like 1,000 targets per game.
Yeah, but there's no Taysom Hill on the Jags, so
okay.
Yet.
I would love for ETN to be having like 6, 7, 8 targets, but hasn't quite been there just yet.
Yeah, but he could. He has that within his range of outcomes because he's a very good football player. Christian McCaffrey, he'll be on a bye next week, so not the same implications for week 9, but played his first full game with the 49ers, 81% snap rates. He had a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown. And the workload
game, LaDainian Tomlinson game.
Oh, yeah.
That is.
Yeah. He was a great passer. Shout out LaDainian Tomlinson for being great. 9 targets, 18 carries for McCaffrey. He had 6 out of 9 red zone chances to both these guys getting a lot of work and close. Obviously, the caveat here is there was no Debo, and he's a great player, and that would alter the role for sure. But we have at least a baseline now for McCaffrey going forward. Like, how high can we be on this guy knowing what they can do with him with a fun chess piece in their arsenal?
Yeah, it's really tough because we didn't have Debo this week, and I'm not saying that like Debo's just a running back. I'm sure Debo loves this because he's not going to be traded.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but McCaffrey's going to lose out some touches. There's still going to be enough work where he's like completely in the elite tier. I'm not trying to like downplay this at all. This is not like it's not like a huge knock on McCaffrey. He got a really sort of creative target in the end zone, but he kind of just turned a flat into there's no one down here in the red zone or in the end zone, so I'm going to go for it.
And I'm going to just like make the sickest catch of all time for a running back, basically. Yeah.
Like that's fun.
Yeah.
2 red zone targets. Like he's going to be involved. I think the hardest part might be that the red zone role is going to be really strong, but he can still lose out to Kittle, Debo, and even Ayuk in the red zone, like just those touchdowns. But, factoring in the better offense, which still not a guarantee every week with their quarterback play.
It's guaranteed to be better than Carolina.
Yes.
It's not guaranteed
absolutely.
To be great, but
I think with the hesitancy of having other viable options, I'd probably put him, like, let's say they're on the main slate next week, 95.
That's what I was going to say.
Probably not a full 10,000, but like
I was thinking 93 or 95.
We'll see. I think Saquon was 95 this week. I know that
neutral matchup. Would you prefer Saquon? Like, let's say they're at home against Seattle. Do you prefer Saquon or do you prefer McCaffrey?
McCaffrey.
I think I do too. Like, I don't know. How many guys do you pick over? Do you pick anybody over McCaffrey? Like, if we say they're at home against Seattle for hypothetical reasons. Maybe Derrick Henry? But that's even a maybe. I don't think I would. I think I'd go McCaffrey there too.
I think I'd go McCaffrey. I think he's back to being the guy that we should prefer. Mm-hmm. But we're gonna open like a whole can of worms where it's like, okay, well, McCaffrey's maybe back. Do we have to prioritize him? Is he like a lock in cash games like he used to be? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that whereas it used to be a lock, I think this year it'll depend on the situation, depend on the context. That probably should have been the case previously too. But I think pretty high out McCaffrey. That was a great role. It was kind of what you thought it might be with a guy like Kyle Shanahan and a good offensive piece around him. So
72% route rate.
Yeah, he had three snaps in the slot and 3 out wide. He played some snaps with Jeff Wilson, who might apparently get traded. There was some chatter about that potentially, but I don't know. I got nothing. He's great. It was fun to watch him in that scheme.
Only one Packer had a better route rate than McCaffrey did this week.
It was a guy that tried to bench coming into the game, but then couldn't. Okay, let's dig into some injuries here and stick with that same game because Cooper Kupp got rolled up on late in the game, hurt his ankle. He said he thinks he got lucky, but Sean McVay was beating himself up after the game. So Kupp might be banged up. Van Jefferson made his return, 55% snap rate. He was not targeted. Allen Robinson, 7 targets. That's good. 54 yards. Of course, makes sense. He was the only guy other than Kupp to top 15 receiving yards. This offense sucks. I hate it. And I don't think you can talk me into liking this offense. And now Kupp might miss time. How would you handle them if that does happen, where there's targets to be available, but also it's the worst offense that's ever existed?
It's not the worst offense that's ever existed.
It's the least juicy offense of all time, and you will not talk me out of that.
Okay.
No juice.
Stafford is averaging negative 0.10 EPA per dropback. That's 0.04 below expectation if you adjust for, if he played exactly what the defense allowed, he'd still be below that. League average drop rate, 8.5% sack rate, which is above league average. I love Stafford, from what I know about him, he seems fun, but this is, I have no temptation here, and whatever was going on in their backfield, they can't run the ball and they can't even feature a guy. So
yeah,
it's always Kupp or bust. And even that, I've been hesitant to play Cooper Kupp this year. Not even because I don't typically roster receivers at above 9,000, but it feels a lot less scary to fade him because of Stafford's, the whole team's inefficiency.
Yeah.
But
Stafford is struggling as a result of the team being down. But is that going to change? Probably not. Create one explosive play. That's all I ask. If you can do that, I will consider going to this team, but you got to do it before I buy in.
Their pace has also they've been slowing it down a bit the past 2 games.
Bad.
Right.
That's what they should do.
Like the Packers.
Yeah. Bad teams should play slow. Again, they're a great team. So,
the Packers?
Yeah. They covered again. The teams win, great teams cover. Okay. Come on. Keep up. I just think that if you are giving more targets to Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek, I need them to be super undersalaried to be there because I think this offense could just be really bad. They play Tampa Bay on the road next week, so a rematch of that awesome NFC playoff game last year.
Give me a salary, give me a salary on what you would need Allen Robinson to be to want to roster him if we have no Cooper Kupp.
58. Oh no.
He got the was it Josh Reynolds treatment?
Is he 65?
He's 7,000.
What? No way.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
Would you rather get punched in the face or use Allen Robinson $7,000? Because I think I'd take the punch. It depends on who's punching, but most people, I'll take the punch. Line me up against a wall and just sock me real hard, and I'll move on with my day.
I will have 0 Allen Robinson.
What's Van? Is he 68?
58.
I don't want that either, though. He had no targets. He's not a huge target earner to begin with. Higbee, probably 58 as well, I'd assume.
Higbee
61?
61. So I'm more open
What's
to
the Buccaneers defense? 47? I'd rather pay that than pay 7,000 for Allen Robinson.
So what I'm thinking is Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are just target monsters right now.
Yeah.
I could see myself mini stacking it with Van because we have 10 games, so we have 2 fewer teams than we've sort of had for most of these main slates. Value has already been hard to find. We're going to have to do something imperfect. I would probably consider Van again if there's no Kupp.
Yeah. I hope he plays. No, actually, I hope he doesn't play. So people use Allen Robinson 7,000. That's an egregious salary. I don't know if they'll use him. I guess. Yeah. Speaking of bummers, Jonathan Taylor hurt his ankle in the first half. He didn't return, so the full game stats will be a bit misleading. But Taylor's been banged up all year. He got wrapped up right away, he was getting that ankle rewrapped. He had 16 carries and a target on 38 snaps, a 70% snap rate. But the team didn't move the ball a whole lot this week. partly because it's just low volume. We'll talk about the offensive philosophy later on and Sam Ehlinger, but Taylor didn't do a whole lot here. He struggled all year long. Do you view this as a buy low spot, or do we just kind of need to like wait this one out until we get like a legitimate reason for hope?
So I've been trying to buy low on Taylor for weeks now, thinking it would be like a galaxy brained option. And then he's
Did
been
you use
hurt.
him
Like,
this week?
no,
Okay,
like the week where he was supposed to play after his injury, but
Right.
then didn't. I was like, okay, well, I won't obviously not playing him that week, but I like the idea because he was 8,000.
Like entering, we were intrigued.
He was 8,000 again the next week, and I was like, okay, like this is when I'm gonna do it. I didn't actually get there that much that week, and now it's like
So
an
we like the
efficiency
theory
thing.
of it, but we've never actually talked ourselves into it yet.
Yeah, it's been like it makes sense on paper, or like to want to be there, but
Yeah.
he's not really doing a whole lot over expectation. He's at 0.12 rushing yards over expectation per carry, so basically just above expected. And he's been one of the better rushing yards over expectation guys in his career. If he's look, Sam Ehlinger played better than like the generic stat line will show.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like if this team needs to just run Taylor into the ground this year, it almost seems like a lost cause of a year.
Yeah.
And so while that's more of like a season long sort of like maybe they'll shut him down eventually, it's like maybe he's not going to get the workload that he typically has. And so I need the salary to be around 8,000 again, maybe even lower than that.
Yeah. I think I'm there too. I probably would need it lower, honestly, just because like he doesn't seem to be like he still seems hurt. And like until he's not hurt anymore, it's hard for me to get super enthused. So I would need to hold off personally until
so
like give me a reason to buy back in and I will. But
well, maybe if his salary is 6,800.
Is it?
Yeah. Because we were both already on record of saying like just below 8,000, maybe like 78, 76, like ETN or Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, ETN
like,
by a mile.
Right. So like if Taylor was actually 78, I wouldn't get there. Right. So I guess based on that, I mean, we also had ETN higher than 76, but
yeah. So
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tempted.
I think that at least makes it a discussion rather than a cross off.
He's had one touchdown in the first game. He had a rushing touchdown. He has not scored since then.
So 2 games since he came back from his injury, he's had 85 yards to scrimmage and 76. That's not terrible. I don't want to like talk myself into it though, just because the salary is low. So I think that what I need to do is like make sure I can actually bank on the production and not just doing it out of like principle kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a big fear. The name that comes into my mind of like
Najee
the role,
Harris.
Najee, yeah. It's like how low is the salary going to get? Like he's the number one, but he did have 8 targets last week.
Yeah,
well,
they were more run heavy under Ehlinger, which we'll talk about later on. So the targets might not come back, but
what's that total against the Patriots? Probably like 37,
42. You can run a bit on the Patriots.
It's 39 and a half.
So
it's 39 and a half.
He'll be a discussion point. I think that's low enough where he's actually a consideration, which I kind of wish he wasn't.
I don't know if you're hearing me, but
what?
It's not 42 points. It's 39 and a half.
No, well, whatever.
I'm just so like gross game again. Totals don't matter as much.
6-point dogs, I think too. So their implied totals like 17. That's not right. That's their implied totals low.
Imagine early September. We're like, yeah, Jonathan Taylor, 6,800. He's a maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Andrews was limited in week 8 with a shoulder injury. He played just 10 offensive snaps and had 5 targets in those 10 snaps. Rashad Bateman also had a foot injury. Both guys came in banged up and obviously didn't play a whole lot here. John Harbaugh said after the game that neither injury was serious, but I think it's important to note in case Andrews were to miss time that Isaiah Likely would be pretty sick. 7 targets, 77 yards, and a touchdown. So how do you view this going forward? It's kind of similar to the JT discussion, honestly, because like they're playing through injury and that can linger for a long time, especially like shoulders for pass catchers. That's not a fun situation. He has a knee injury too for Andrews too. So how are you viewing these guys going forward? And just hypothetically, if Andrews were to sit, what would you do with Isaiah Likely?
Love likely if there's no Andrews. The role was really good, and he's fun and very
Love
capable.
Likely sounds like a Love Actually sequel or prequel. I don't know. We'll workshop it.
Probably
I'll get the interns working on that we don't have.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as Andrews goes, I'm kind of glad they're just not in the main slate.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
They play New Orleans on Monday night. We'll get a week. I mean, he'll get an extra day to rest up from playing on Thursday. So we'll have plenty of time to rest up. So this might not even be like he's going to miss. It's just, we'll maybe see if he's limited. The big selling point for Mark Andrews, aside from talent, is just a workload that is sort of unmatched. Like even Travis Kelce's been more productive, but like the workload for Andrews has been
another
unmatched.
tier.
Yeah. If they have like another tight end who can do some of the stuff that Andrews can do, and they don't need to run Andrews into the ground in the middle of the season,
I don't think they would do that. I think it'd be more so like more 2 tight end sets. They're not using your boy Demarcus Robinson as much as they have been.
Demarcus Robinson on good teams, he's just
if you could choose between Isaiah Likely routes and Demarcus Robinson routes, you would pick Isaiah Likely, correct? I just want to make sure you're not a traitor.
What do you mean by route? Like, what am I choosing? I don't understand the question.
Like, would you rather I don't
understand the question, and I won't respond to it.
Okay. You were going to say the wrong answer then, so I'm going to move on. Gus Edwards.
Yeah. No, I love Isaiah Likely, and yes, I'm much more likely to play Isaiah Likely than Demarcus. I'm not playing Demarcus Robinson. I just
not even cheer for. Would you cheer for an Isaiah Likely route or a Demarcus
I don't
Robinson
understand route? I'm not cheering for routes.
I am. Gus Edwards sustained a hamstring injury in the fourth quarter on Thursday night. He was not really the lead back before that. So he was on the injury report coming in. It was kind of similar to Bateman and Andrews, honestly. Kenyon Drake had a 67% first half snap rate, Justice Hill 18%, Gus Edwards 15%. So like they did use Drake quite a bit. They don't really give a running back a full-time role, but J.K. Dobbins on IR, Gus Edwards banged up. Would you consider Drake or Justice Hill, or can we keep on crossing off this backfield?
If there are just 2 of them, and we can maybe think that it's Kenyon Drake, then maybe if the salary...
think the risk is that they just elevate Mike Davis, or like they bring Mike Davis back.
So like, I hate this. I hate talking about Ravens running backs. It's probably, I hate it more than like when we have to talk about in the past. I mean, we have Ramondre Stevenson now, but like talking about like the Patriots running backs, like just no, like we're not using them in DFS. But like, I hate talking about the Ravens because they could have one guy and then just sign 4 more and give everyone a 30% snap rate.
Yeah.
So I'm out.
Yeah. I think I'd rather hold off as well. Like Hill and Drake are like the season long options, but they're not DFS options. I don't think there's a Patsy in there.
I'm glad I picked up Kenyon Drake in season long. I have no interest in using him in DFS.
I forgot I had him on a best ball dynasty league, and I was like, oh, that's fun to get 17 free points I wasn't aware of, but outside of that, I'm good. Mark Ingram played just 5 snaps before leaving with a knee injury on Sunday. Alvin Kamara actually, he had like a good early snap rate, and then Jarrett Stidham came in for the Raiders, and the Saints were like, we don't need to use this guy anymore because he's been awesome. So finished with a 73% snap rate, but he's about 82% for most of the first half. Kamara scored 3 times, 1 rushing. He had 2 receiving touchdowns, 18 carries and 10 targets. That's a disgusting workload. He now has at least 6 targets in 5 straight games and at least 9 in 3 straight. So Ingram missing time may have helped here, but I feel like Kamara was kind of building towards this for a long time. So not in the main slate, but name that salary hypothetically for Alvin Kamara going forward.
Yeah, 85% first half snap rate. The first time he's been above 71% all season. So did help. The full season or the full game snap rate, definitely not indicative. So thanks for that catch. Just wanted to give Jim props for being a good host on the fly.
I just remember I had that game open a lot on the Next Gen Stats tab because I was like tracking Kamara stuff. I was like so excited about everything that was happening.
It's one of those where go back in the morning for first half stuff, and I just overlooked it. But I mean, so if we have McCaffrey, we said 93 to 95. Kamara still an imperfect opportunity for touchdowns. So maybe similar to like McCaffrey in that sense where he's still involved in the red zone, but they have other guys that they can get touchdowns to.
Yeah. They don't have a battering ram like Hill,
Right.
who's used in a very specific way.
Then I want to say 89 or 9,000.
Yeah,
I'm hesitant to have a 9 in front of it.
I think
but
87 is where I'd settle in just
yeah.
because of those things. But that's still very high and still very deserving of that. And he still has good upside. So happy to get the Kamara game in the bag on a main slate rather than a non-main slate. Devontae Parker played just one snap before a game-ending knee injury for the Patriots. Parker had been playing heavy snaps in the Patriots offense, so that led to an expansion once again for Kendrick Bourne to 81%. Jacoby Myers led the team in route rate at 90%, Tyquan Thornton 83%. But the only players to get more than 4 targets were Jacoby Myers at 12 and Ramondre Stevenson with 8. We can kind of lump Stevenson in here as well. He cemented himself as being the team's lead back in Damian Harris's second game back. I was a bit skeptical after the first one because it's like, okay, first game back, etc. But like Stevenson had 16 carries on top of the 8 targets for 143 yards. So we've talked about Myers. I thought the salary was too high entering this week. Stevenson has I think, a majority backfield role now. We can feel better about that. But how would Parker's absence affect your view of the Patriots, if at all? And how high are we on Stevenson going forward?
Still a little bit hesitant on Stevenson just because he could get those touchdowns stolen. Love the route rate above 50% for any running back. We know that if they're trailing, he should be even more involved. They are touchdown overdogs next week against the Colts, so don't love to see that.
We can't use that term. That term is used in a commercial for a different company that we are. No, we're not going to reference.
Well, I've seen it on YouTube like thousands of times, so I don't think anyone owns that. Okay,
I'm just saying.
They're touchdown favorites. Well, when I see commercials for
love FanDuel,
when I see other commercials, I just fast forward because guess what? I don't watch anything live, so just fast forward through all the commercials. But Stevenson, I'll probably ask you what you think for his salary first because I never have a great grasp on Stevenson. I think I'm always lower than consensus.
Yeah, I would say. Oh boy, because
he's feeling like a 73,
76, I think.
I said 73. He's 8,000. I don't think I'll get there in that game.
Yeah,
personally,
like it's not egregious. I don't think. It's not good.
The reality, like the chance for me to get to Ramondre at 8,000 instead of ETN at 76 seems, and that's not like I'll play him in every single lineup. I might, but
yeah,
but that's a hard one to get to, I think.
What about the pass catchers here?
So Jacoby Myers is going to be between 66 and 68 for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. If I like the other side of a game, I don't necessarily love this Colts game with a total below 40. I'm assuming he's, again, 66 to 68.
68.
Thornton, probably the more interesting of the other two because he can get some rushing work, but I don't know if they'll really do that with Harris back as much. Probably out on that.
Yeah,
I think I'm probably not going to play any Patriots next week.
I hope not. That's my goal, I think, personally.
That's a pretty good goal every single week.
I agree. Unless it's Ramondre.
Yeah.
Typically that's okay. Irv Smith needs an MRI on his ankle. Johnny Munt scored a tight end. We almost had like a Mike Gesicki, Mac Hollins situation because there are some similarities between Johnny Munt and Adam Thielen. Luckily, Johnny Munt wears a number in the 80s, whereas Thielen is 19. So that saved me from oh boy, I got a touchdown for my Thielen lineups and then didn't. So it saved me. So thank you, Johnny, for wearing a number in the 80s. 39% route rate. Munt's role could increase if Irv Smith were to miss time, but I think the better takeaway is boosting up Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne. How would you view Osborne or Thielen, I guess, and Osborne if Irv were to miss time?
Yeah, Thielen's been involved in recent weeks. We talked about him in that value range when we were trying to find receiver options for this week. KJ Osborne, 87% route rate, 5 targets, just the 2 catches for 8 yards. But we've seen him get downfield work. This past week, the downfield work was funneled to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Thielen with a 9.8 yard ADOT this week is fun. I don't think I would go to Munt, but especially Osborne, because he didn't do anything, is like super low salaried, I'd be open to it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I'm not sure what his like ceiling is, I guess, even if he gets a slight increase in his like workload with no Irv Smith. He has not had more than 73 yards this year. He's topped 41 once. So I think the yardage upside is pretty questionable there. Thielen like hasn't shown yardage upside, but I think he potentially could because he does get the downfield work, as you mentioned. He has a 26% deep target share in each game this year. 7 targets overall Sunday. He now has 7 targets in 6 consecutive games. So Thielen is 62 again. I feel like I'll probably be okay with him again in a Kirk Cousins revenge game, mind you. I think I'd rather just go with Thielen rather than guessing on Osborne.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather get there. I will say that Irv Smith for the season, 13.5% target share. Osborne, 12.7%. I think there's some room to grow into like a... Okay.
No. Not a receiver. If he were a tight end, I'd consider it, but he's not. So Christian Watson left after just 6 snaps due to a concussion. Only one Packer had a route rate better than 66%, which is Romeo Doubs at 88%. Sammy Watkins, second in routes at 21. He had just 1 target for 3 yards. Sammy Watkins' revenge game didn't matter. We'll talk about them in the philosophical shift section because they were pretty run heavy on Sunday. Let's now dig into the role changes here from week number 8. And just want to talk about Tony Pollard, even though Zeke will be back after their bye, it sounds like, and sounds like he'll go to his usual role, according to Jerry Jones. What could be wrong? Pollard, he had 3 total touchdowns, 147 yards in scrimmage. He did lose some snaps, but part of that was because they were just up big and didn't really need to use them at times. The Cowboys on a bye, they said they're going to get Zeke back, and Jerry Jones said, we're going to go as Zeke goes. So Pollard isn't going to have the same role in week 9, or in week 10, I should say. But how should we be viewing Pollard going forward, given that like he doesn't need to have a 90% snap rate to go bananas?
Yeah, that's tough. Wasn't like early career Alvin Kamara like doing stuff on super limited snaps?
Yeah, because he earned a lot of targets, and like they were good targets, and like there's some overlap there.
Some, but I wasn't saying like complete overlap, just more like might be one of those situations. I have a hard time thinking that Pollard's salary is going to be low in week 10, just out of safety of like, hey, if Zeke doesn't play,
right,
like
exactly.
we got to protect ourselves here. I still am going to be hesitant to bank on someone who has a team that actively says they want the other guy to be the guy.
Yeah.
Pollard can do it in limited snaps. We saw that. We've seen that numerous times throughout his career. But if he goes, so it's been like a 60-40 split for most of the season. If it's not like 50-50 even, that's just not what I want to see. So,
yep.
It's unfortunate.
Like, I'd rather use him in a 50-50 split than Zeke, but I also didn't want to use Zeke, especially because Pollard's salary will probably be up. So, I don't know. If Zeke misses more time, obviously it's a different discussion, but based on the way it is right now, I'm not going to bank on Pollard carving out a bigger role or like a big enough role to be viable at his likely salary. So that's a bummer, but it was fun while it lasted. Other bummer, DeAndre Swift was back in theory, but he still lost a lot of work to Jamal Williams. He kind of looked like a transformer out there because he had a lot of like extra padding on his shoulder and stuff like that. It looked kind of heavy. It was weird, like because of the equipment, not like, like it looked weird. Williams out-carried Swift 10-5. Swift had 2 red zone targets, but Jamal had 3 carries in the red zone. Craig Reynolds had a red zone carry as well. Swift just looked weird. Like, I think that's the way I'd phrase it. Are we just kind of out on Swift until he gives us a reason to buy back in, or what's your view here?
Yeah, I think that we need to be 53% route rate. You like to see that, but not getting any of the 4 red zone carries is, you could maybe write it off as like a weird blip, but this is what this team has done all season with him. And in the past, they just, honestly, if you used him, you got bailed out by that touchdown, the receiving touchdown. It just seems weird that he's even on the field in the red zone. So if that's the case, that's not really a DFS running back you want to build around, especially at an elevated salary. So I guess the real question is, they're 3.5-point underdogs against the Packers next week. The total's up. Name a salary for DeAndre Swift where you'd be intrigued.
67.
I was thinking 7,000 probably.
What's his salary?
75. I don't think I'll quite get there. It's a good on paper matchup, but
don't care. Yeah, I just like
ETN or Swift. Like, it's ETN for sure.
Oh yeah, by a decade for sure. And I don't even think that Swift's in his tier as to be like a viable pivot either off of ETN chalk. Deontay Foreman made good on an opportunity to be the primary back for the Carolina Panthers. 66% snap rate. He had 26 of 34 running back carries. Foreman, 43% route rate too, which is pretty good despite earning just one target. He also had 11 out of 15 red zone chances to the team. So they kind of just leaned into letting Deontay Foreman cook. Now, looking forward to next week, Carolina is on the road facing Cincinnati, 8.5-point dogs. Name that salary for Deontay Foreman in a different context than what he was in this week.
Do we know if Chuba Hubbard will be back?
You mean Chubbard?
Like, did he? I don't know if he practiced at all.
I don't think he did.
Let's say there's no Hubbard. That's not a Deontay Foreman game script. It's so hard now knowing that Jonathan Taylor's 68.
Well, just don't think about that. Think about like what you do.
I can't not think about it. I don't think I could go there if he was above 7,000. So I'll go 69.
Yeah, I think they're still going to try to run him while they can. So it's a question of how long can they stay in this game, and not really sure. I think with Jamar Chase being out, maybe they can stay in a little bit longer, but still pretty tough. I would say because we know he can go bananas, you kind of have to put him above 7,000. So I'd say like his salary should be like 72 or so.
He's 73.
I think that like that can work for game stacks because we know that he has a banana ceiling if they keep it close, and you're kind of assuming they keep it close if it's a game stack situation. So
yeah.
Not off the map, but not super desirable. Not like an ETN cash game kind of play.
Yeah, Cincinnati likely without Chase for next week. I know he's not going to IR, but then they're also on a short slate, like a short week. So maybe they keep it a little bit closer. But once again, like with ETN there, unless it's a pure mid-tier running back week, but Foreman or Jonathan Taylor next week? What is this world?
I don't know.
I
can't give you an answer, to be fully honest.
Deontay Foreman as an 8.5-point underdog or Jonathan Taylor?
It's tough. I can't give you I don't know.
I guess we'll try to
I
wish
I could give you a different answer, but I think my lack of an answer is an answer in itself. This one's not really a role change, but Greg Dulcich's role remained really good this week. He had 5 targets with 2 of those deep, turned into 87 yards. They're on bye this week, and the offense has had its issues, but once they're back, name me a salary for Greg Dulcich because I feel like it should be like decent.
Probably like 57, 58.
Yeah, put him in the Njoku range, like a guy who's not going to get like massive volume, not the best offense, but gets yardage. I think that's right.
Just below Goddard, like in where Njoku used to be. I think that's about where I'd have him.
I think that he's very much Njoku-like. I think, and that's a good thing. I've used Njoku a lot, so I want to say that as like a compliment.
Yeah.
I think he'll be in play as long as the salary doesn't get too high, but I also don't think it will. So Dulcich's role really good. We'll circle back to him once they come off their bye, but just want to note that like really good role and someone I think we'll be talking about on the preview shows in the near future. In the Jets' first game with no Breece Hall, Michael Carter was the primary back, but it was still a committee. Carter had a 55% snap rate, Ty Johnson 33%, James Robinson 21% in his Jets debut. Carter had 7 carries, Robinson had 5. Carter had 7 out of 10 running back targets. It's a committee. It's not a great offense. None of these guys are super, super talented, IMO. So are we okay just kind of crossing off this backfield for the time being?
Yes, but they're 12.5-point underdogs against the Bills. Could you consider?
No. I don't know what you're going to ask. Sorry.
I'm just saying, like, could you consider Michael Carter in a bring back
No.
in hopes that he gets 10 targets?
Nope.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Not a chance. Nope.
Even at 6,000.
Nope. I don't want to do it. Can't make me. Especially because there's a possibility Robinson's role increases in his second week.
Yeah, it likely will. I just figure
nope.
He could be back. Like, all right, nope. Jim. Okay.
Okay. Kyle Pitts led the Falcons with 9 targets.
He's back.
They threw 9 times, which is, I think, the biggest headliner here. He now has a 35% target share over the past 2 games, which is 7 per game. So let's calm down here. But the Falcons run heavy offense. Would you be willing to change your view on Pitts if the target shares are back up, even though we know they don't want to throw?
It's at least different where I couldn't quite consider it. I think maybe they're realizing that they need to involve him more, or else they have
throw the ball once or twice, maybe.
So I mean, like I'm not. Well, Jim, I think Jim will be all right with this, but we've had run heavy offenses in the past and considered 1 or 2 guys who had absurdly high target shares. I'm thinking of a really run heavy Ravens team where it's you could maybe consider this one guy because he's getting 30% of the targets, and that's not a great share, but he's the guy or one of the 2 that they throw to. I think he's probably in that bucket where if the target shares are going to stick and be high, he's at least not a complete cross off where he was on a run heavy team and not getting a target share. So I think it is a little bit different.
So what salary are you thinking on Pitts at home against the Chargers next week?
To be honest, I try not to look at what his salary is, so I'm not tempted each week. So I don't know what it has been.
Yeah.
Probably 58.
63.
It is.
Do
63?
the thoughts? Yeah.
Okay.
Do the thoughts that we just mentioned about Pitts mean we should also consider Drake London or not as much?
I mean, so what's he over the past 2 weeks here?
He's only had 6 targets.
91% route rate, 3 targets per game, 15% target share. So the thing is, I think what's happening is London was featured early, and that's kind of going away. I don't know if it's a scheme thing because they're if defense is they're only throwing it to Drake London, so let's just cover him. So it's probably similar to where we liked London early, where it's we know that they're not going to throw it a ton, but they're throwing it to him on 35% because he had a 35% target share to start the season. Maybe it's just maybe it just flipped. There's still a chance that the rug gets pulled out and Kyle Pitts gets 2 targets for 19 yards. I think he had 2 of those games back to back or whatever, but
yeah,
it's a consideration, especially in games where we might want the other side. And I think next week we might want some of the other side of that game.
Yeah, I think I might be more inclined to use London than Pitts next week, just because I think Pitts there'll be enthusiasm. It's a fun game, et cetera, coming off a big game. I think I'd rather go London.
At 50, I didn't know his salary was 56. I figured he was still 6,000.
Yeah.
I think London's back on that. And again, we talked about this trend leading into this week. Value guys, and you want them to be in high scoring games, which is obvious, but you really got to nitpick a little bit more.
Yeah.
And now that he's finally in a game where there might be points.
I think the other thing that I would note on this is as you know, I'm very okay using popular players. I'm okay swallowing the chalk. I don't want to swallow chalk on this team with either guy. If Pitts is popular, I don't want a piece. If London is popular, I don't want it. Because they're just very, very, very multiple obvious paths to failure. And that's a situation where you can have bad chalk.
This is one of the spots where it's and this is not like it's not like an attack, but the counter to Jim's usual thing is like Drake London hasn't had over 55 yards in 6 straight games. Like, what's the yardage upside here? Should we just cross him off regardless?
Well, he's shown it this year, and I don't want to like ignore, because like Pitts was active in week 2 when he had 86. So like I don't want to ignore that. It's still within his range of outcomes. So,
but it's not for KJ Osborne at all.
KJ Osborne hasn't had 86 yards this year.
Didn't he have like 73 or something?
Was KJ Osborne a first round pick, or was he undrafted?
Who
Well,
could
actually, I
say?
don't think he's undrafted, but like,
Because that
was he the 8th overall pick?
That's why we're playing Najee Harris every week, right?
I can't remember. Was KJ Osborne the 8th overall pick? It's tough to remember.
Well,
also, does he have a quarterback as good as Marcus Mariota? No. Okay, cool.
Based on that, yeah, I'm surprised you didn't pick up on the fact that I said like this reminded me a little bit of like.
Oh, you compared Mariota to Lamar,
like indirectly
on that. I think I might.
I feel like if I had done that with a different quarterback who wasn't Marcus Mariota, you'd be like, "There's no
that checks
chance
out." With Mariota, yeah, that checks out. Go ahead, continue. Yeah, not going to notice.
If it was like Cooper Rush, you'd be like, "Are you nuts?"
Pooper Rush. Anyway, let's go to situations to monitor. What else did you pick up on this week when looking at usages?
So we're going to bring back the ETN zone, the scale.
Yeah, someone on Twitter said that they liked the ETNs. So the way it works is we had Travis Etienne in situations to monitor for like 16 straight weeks, or like 4. And it was like, okay, how excited are you about this? Like how anxious are you to monitor this? So like if it's someone who is like, this didn't go well, but like Raheem Mostert against heading into last week or this week, where he's like, oh, 80% or 78% snap rate facing the Lions. I'm at about 8 out of 10 ETNs. That's kind of the way it works. If it's like, Kyle Pitts got some more targets, but it's still a bad offense, I'm like, I'm at 3 ETNs there. It's like a measure of enthusiasm for guys who roles haven't changed yet, but might be.
Yeah, and confusingly, a 10 out on the ETN scale is not a like super, or it's not like what Travis Etienne used to be early on in the season.
It's what Travis Etienne is now.
It's more fun. But I think like in the reverse ETN zone,
oh boy,
is Leonard Fournette, where it's how bad is it getting? Is it like still, where is it? Because this is not like a Rashad White ETN watch. It's like a Leonard Fournette. Where is it now? But he had a 76% snap rate on Thursday, up from 59% a week ago. And this is a bit of a Rorschach test, I think, because he's been under a 65% snap rate in 3 of his past 5 games, but also above 75% in 2 of the past 3. So, like, what? He's probably like a 7 on the ETN zone, because if he's like back to Lenny, like that's super appealing. So again, is it more the sub 65% snap rate in 3 of the 5, or better than 75% in 2 of the past 3? Like which is it?
He's Devin Singletary. It brings me no happiness to say this. He's just Devin Singletary. His red zone role is underwhelming right now. His yardage upside kind of sucks. Like, his role is okay. He's better in neutral scripts than he is in any other script. Like, he's Devin Singletary.
Well, it's a 3-point spread next week against the Rams. Give me his salary.
69.
He's 71, which I think is fair.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
So, like, Deontay Foreman as an 8.5 point underdog on a questionable offense, or Leonard Fournette
on a questionable offense
with a somewhat questionable offense
with a worse quarterback. Tinder Tom narrative ain't going great, man.
But he's not going to be playing prime time.
Yeah, but like, shouldn't the nighttime be like Tinder Tom's time to shine? Like, I don't know. It wasn't on Thursday, but
he said he's on like a military schedule where during football season, it's not like he's out having fun. He's doing
think he
work.
will be now. Tinder Tom, don't forget.
But answer my question: Deontay Foreman or Leonard Fournette?
Fournette, but I don't feel happy about it.
Right. So like, it's more we're okay chasing the 75% plus snap rate rather than saying that those are the 2 blips rather than the 3 out of the 5 that are a little more questionable.
I just think he's Devin Singletary. We use him more in a neutral script. He has very serious limitations, though, so never get too excited if he's going to be popular. That's what I'd say.
Chris Godwin has double-digit targets in 4 of his past 5 games. Mike Evans has done it in 2 straight. Again, it's not pretty overall, but they're like a DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, just getting all the targets.
With the worst quarterback.
Yeah, then with Russ last year, I agree. I think that they're appealing. I don't know.
Is the ranking Geno 1, Russ last year 2, and Tinder Tom 3? I'm trying to track this year.
I still think there's some life to Tom Brady, but
okay.
They're basically cash game hoped. I don't know if I can get there because Mike Evans always hasn't been below 76 in like 10 years.
So Evans is 77. Godwin is 67. Wow. That's a write down.
I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, Tinder Tom. Fire it up, baby.
Chris Godwin. Thank you, buddy. Where am I here? I had to scroll down to write down.
Oh my goodness. Why did that happen? My like interest level in the Buccaneers just changed dramatically.
Look, I've said it for years. I love the Bucs. I believe.
Yeah, Tinder Tom narrative is a positive. There's no sleepy Tom. Whatever. Yeah, we're good.
Rondale Moore, 8 targets, 92 yards. Looks great, but 85 of those yards were after the catch. His ADOT was 1.5.
His ADOT went up as the game went along because it was at negative 0.1 when I first checked.
That
was after his touchdown, by the way.
I'd love to love the volume, but it's really hard to like. Not all targets are created equally.
Is he just Curtis Samuel?
In a worse offense, yeah.
Rude.
Michael Gallup.
That one hurt.
Michael Gallup back up for us. Love that. Involved early in the game. Wound up with a 23% target share, 93% route rate. He's still going to be volatile, but in games when we like Dallas, I don't think we should hold week 7 against him at all. And I think we can go back to him. Not exactly like the same upside, but maybe like a Gabe Davis sort of thing. It's like it might bust, but it might be a strong performance. Elijah Moore definitely didn't get the squeaky wheel narrative in his favor. No role improvement there. 16% route rate, just a single target. Denzel Mims, 74% route rate, was the guy behind Garrett Wilson at 98%.
You know what's bad if the Jets are like, hey, let's use Denzel Mims this week. Like, yeah.
I think Garrett Wilson, again, we talked about him at 54, had a good game. I think he's probably someone that we should be open to more, especially if the game isn't completely terrible. The game was not great this week, but
you could justify Wilson as a bring back in Bill stacks next week.
Yeah. He'd be the guy over Michael Carter that we're going to be going to. Tyler Conklin did lead the team with a 29% target share. He now has 6 or more targets in consecutive games. It's something. Terrace Marshall, probably like a 2.5 on the ETN scale. 3. I liked his profile coming out, but 95% route rate this week, 86% last week. Again, fun prospect, so at least that's enjoyable, but really hard to like anyone on this team catching passes. And then just a passing note, Derek Carr is very average, and it's unfun.
Okay, so let me pull up their game logs here. So they are wild. Okay, so I have like early down passing efficiency compared to expectation based on the offense you faced or defense you faced. This is them in order: negative 0.39, negative 0.32, negative 0.01, positive 0.29, negative 0.32, positive 0.36, negative 0.38. They are either good or dog do. And the good ones are kind of hard to predict, I guess.
I just I can't justify Devontae Adams. Like it's weird. They're playing the Jaguars next week, and I don't know. Did we talk fully about like liking the Jaguars on this show, or was that before the show?
That was before. That was me. You don't have to associate yourself with it if you don't want to.
Well, I just didn't know, but I'm saying like you like the Jaguars next week. What do you have any thoughts on bringbacks? Is it just Josh Jacobs? Are you lower on Josh Jacobs due to the fact that this team has a lot of letdowns?
Well, I think that that's always been in the range of outcomes for them because of situations. So it didn't really change me there. I just think that because I wasn't into Jacobs this week, honestly.
Right.
I didn't use him at all. I think I don't know. I don't really, it doesn't bother me for Jacobs, I don't think. I would use him. I would also I still think that the spike games are within the range of outcomes for Devontae Adams. So I'd still use him too. So I don't think it actually shifted for me that much. It's more so just confirmation that their floor sucks, which is fine.
I mean, they're averaging, we don't really look at points per game. I was just curious. 23.3 points per game with a 0 factored in.
Yeah.
It seems like they're doing more, but it's.
Name that Sarah Jacobs next week against the Jags.
What was he this week? 86 or something?
He was 9,000.
9,000. Probably 86.
Yeah, I think so. Around 87 or so. He's 88, so that's fine. Devontae is down to 81. I can be interested there.
Yeah.
I can get to that range. So
that combined with ETN being under salary, that probably is a very doable.
Don't think we're talking that passing game. So Christian Kirk is 63. He had 96 yards last week. I can get behind Christian Kirk at 63. I can go back to that. Jay Zones is $5,500. Only 3 targets this past week, but he had 10 the week before that. He had 85 yards in week 3, so you can get to 85. Your boy Evan Ingram, I'm not going to claim this one, is 52. He's been getting a lot of targets.
Oh, has he been?
Some yardage upside. Shush.
Oh, okay.
I will mute you.
I think that this is the exact kind of guy sometimes I'm like, oh, Evan Ingram. You're like, no, not a chance.
Yeah, but has it burned me yet to not use him? No. So I don't
Has any tight end ever burned us aside from Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce?
Darren Waller dropped 40 on the Jets one week, and I still think about it nightly. It was bad. Real bad.
Oh, so, yeah. Yes. Nobody cares about my season-long team, but he had 2 blow-up games that year. I played the same manager, both. It was so I'm assuming that happened to
You've been muted. Good. Enjoy. Okay, I'm going to dive into my situations to monitor. I guess you can unmute yourself. Let's
go. Can't keep me down.
Bug.
Can't keep me down.
How can you unmute yourself? Can I permanently mute? I can kick you out. Ban from studio or kick from studio. Those seem drastic. Anyway, Darius Slayton kind of, sort of has an okay role for the Giants. You can say no to this one. That's okay. He led with 6 targets and 66 yards this week. He has 55 plus yards in 3 of the past 4 games. Wan'Dale Robinson played 4 fewer snaps. So, a good snap rate, but not a lot of usage. Marcus Johnson led, but he's not a target earner. The proper takeaway here is likely just to avoid everyone, but I would say you said 2.5 ETNs for Terrace Marshall. I'm at about 2.5 ETNs for Darius Slayton. Keeping an eye on him because he can get downfield work. I think he's a good player. They were just kind of out on him. I think he can play a bit, so I'll keep an eye on him.
What's the ETN for Wan'Dale?
Also 2.5.
That's more important to me because the role should be better, but if it's not going to be, then
I think they're both at 2.5, honestly, just because Slayton can get downfield work.
Yeah, that works.
So. David Montgomery still has not fully given way to Khalil Herbert. Monty outsnapped Herbert 68% to 30%. Herbert, though, had 99 yards on 16 carries, and Monty lost a key fumble. I think it's worth monitoring, but I'm not chasing Herbert yet. I would say I'm probably at about 4.5 ETNs for Herbert, whereas the consensus is probably closer to 6 or 7. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, this just feels like Zeke and Pollard in a different division.
You can't will it to happen.
Yeah.
In their first game without Mike Boone, Melvin Gordon and Latavius Murray split work. Gordon had more snaps and ran twice as many routes, but Murray outcarried him 14-9, and Murray looked good. hashtag film guy. I think his role could expand, but for now, neither guy's really in play. Brian Robinson's role got reduced. Antonio Gibson and JD McKissick led the team with a 36% snap rate apiece. Robinson 25%. So just keep on ignoring this backfield. They are firmly locked in at 0 ETNs, I think, until further notice. Let's go to philosophical changes. The first one is the Colts, their first game with Sam Ehlinger. They were pretty run heavy. They had a 41% early down first half pass rate. Ehlinger played decent, though. He had a 0.17 passing at expected points per dropback across 25 dropbacks. League average around 0.07, so played well. He funneled 9 targets to Michael Pittman. Alec Pierce, the only other guy to get more than 3. So we talked about JT earlier, but how are you viewing the passing game now that we've seen Ehlinger out there for one game?
Michael Pittman had at least one drop that I saw that was pretty costly. Could have made...
First time he got a ball more than 17 yards downfield this year, and he dropped it. It was 19 yards, so it still does not have a 20-plus yard target, but you know.
Yeah, so I mean, the efficiency could have been even better. Pittman also, I'm not saying like absolutely could have scored, but got stuffed at the goal line on a little shovel pass and didn't make any extension at all. Just kind of...
I'm content with this.
Yeah, it was like, we'll get down to the inch line. But I can't play Michael Pittman if he's not getting true downfield work. Mm-hmm. I will say, and especially if this team wants to be more run heavy, I will say that Ehlinger is going to... People were tilting on Twitter about his production. It's going to look like he was inefficient and not good. He was a lot better than I expected. That's not to say that he was phenomenal. So I'm actually higher on this offense because of what he showed. Yeah. Had a completion rate over expectation of plus 6.8 points, 56% passing success rate. And one thing to note is that this team's been playing up in pace. Over their past 3 games, they lead the league in adjusted pace. Again, the pass rate is its own conversation, but it's a little bit more efficient. Unfortunately, I don't think I can really build around Alec Pierce as like a value play week after week. So
I'd rather use him than Pittman.
I would too, assuming
he's 55.
Like assuming Pittman's probably what, 7,000 or
83 because people love him. Yeah. 64. Okay, jeez.
Okay, that's different.
How on earth is Allen Robinson 7,000? I'm mad about this.
So, like, would you play Pittman? It's not a good game next week.
My hope, that's one of the situations where I kind of hope he gets steamed up because of the salary and because of the targets.
He's going to be an optimizer favorite. It's not going to be Allen Robinson at 7,000 if Cup's out. Like, it's going to be Michael Pittman, number one play of the optimizers at 64.
It's just so bland. Like, he's like, there is a path to him skewering me for not using him because he gets a lot of volume. But like he needs to like use the yak to get there. 64 is low enough where it's not awful. But like I would hope that he's popular so I can have an easy guy to fade.
Yeah, rather than dwell on it, I'll wait and see what the salary scroll looks like.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out how viable he might be.
Yeah, I agree with you where I think Ehlinger was actually okay. They were 0.04 above expectation on early downs passing. There wasn't a lot of volume for that because they were pretty run heavy. It was 20 early down dropbacks. So, they were above expectation, whereas Matt Ryan, so like for the full season, they are, sorry, I'm talking away from the mic, trying to read off my other computer. For the full season, they are 0.04 below expectation, and so Ehlinger was 0.04 above. So I think he played better than what people are saying. I talked about the Eagles and how horizontal their offense was after week 6, and they opened it back up this week. Jalen Hurts' 8-out was 11 yards, even with a super positive game script. He was 4 out of 6 on deep throws for 129 yards and 4 touchdowns on those deep throws. You sick. So I had that as like a slight blemish on an otherwise very good resume. I'm removing that blemish. I think that they are now fully back on the like, no real concerns for me.
So yeah, this is something I brought up before they went into bye. When you flagged this, the Steelers are 29th in passing 8 out allowed, and they were able to throw it downfield this week. So Hurts has an ADOT in games against teams outside the top 20 in ADOT allowed of 9.1 in 3 games, and he played 3 consecutive games against teams inside the top half. It's been 4.6. So probably scheme related. They're probably good enough and willing enough to just take what's available and not force things. So I think that might be the real takeaway is if they play teams that are good at blanketing the downfield pass, like maybe they're going to rein it in. And they're Thursday night this week, but if anyone's curious, Houston is 18th in passing ADOT allowed. So maybe real
4-yard ADOT there, and I still think he'd go for like 400 yards if he wanted to.
Yep.
So, I agree. With Malik Willis starting, the Titans did not throw. They refused. He had 10 total pass attempts. Their early down first half pass rate was 36%. Willis threw 1 total pass in the second half, regardless of situation. 1 total pass. I think this likely signals they'll go back to Ryan Tannehill when they can because they didn't trust him at all. But it also means that Willis will be, like, from a DFS perspective, if he winds up being in the slate again, he's more high floor due to rushing than he is high ceiling because you do need passing as well in order to generate a ceiling in DFS as a quarterback. And I don't know if we can bank on that really. Any takeaways for you from them?
They played a little bit faster, but their pass rate over expectation was minus 35.6%. For context, the Bears rank last in the full season at minus 16.6%. So that's I don't know how negatives and percentages work, but that's like double if you just look at the points there. But I was surprised he didn't account for more of those rushes. He had just a 5 for 12 yards. I figured he would be, they used Dontrell Hilliard a little bit for 8 for 83. So like I can't play Malik Willis.
I do think a backfield with Dontrell Hilliard is like a wildcat quarterback would be kind of fun. He's got some juice. So like Dontrell Hilliard, wildcat quarterback, or Henry is a wildcat quarterback. That'd be kind of fun.
Hilliard had 3 carries for over 10 yards on 8 attempts, and Henry had 7. So like, the Texans,
he's pretty good, not gonna lie. I think Dontrell Hilliard's a good complimentary back.
The Texans on at least 10 carries alone gave up 100 rushing yards. Like just those 10 breakaway plays. That's sick.
This is why we had a full trend on Thursday's show about how bad they are. They're just wretched. With injuries of pass catcher, the Packers were very run-heavy Sunday night. They had 12 rushes to 10 passes and early downs in the first half. 20 carries and 5 targets for Aaron Jones, which is pretty good. He now has set a season high in adjusted opportunities in 2 straight games with 28 and 30. He also has 150 or more yards from scrimmage twice this year, which is a good number. So does this potentially new approach alter your view of Jones? And does it make you less likely to chase a guy like Romeo Doubs, even with Watson, Cobb, and Lazard all banged up?
So they were extra run heavy. Their pass rate over expectation of minus 15.4% on pass and run plays. It was the first time they were below double digits in the negative. They've had 2 games at a -9, but overall they're just below average in pass rate over expectation. So I guess the real question is, do you think this was specific to the fact that they were playing the Bills, or do you think that this is what they're trying to do?
I think it was specific to the injuries that they have. Because like if there's no Lazard, I could see them just being more. Also, they ran the ball well, so like it was working, and they face Detroit next week, so it might work again. The problem is that means we have to consider these jabronis because they're facing Detroit. They're 3.5-point favorites on the road against Detroit. What does my model say about this? It says that the Packers, I can't find them on the sheet. This is very useful. Very good radio. Oh, that's why it's sorted by offense. It says they should be favored by 2.4. That's so disrespectful. But it's also true. And my 2022 only model says Green Bay should be favored by 4.8. So okay, whatever. Name
me a salary then for Aaron Jones.
77. Is that too high? That might be too high. I think that's more likely to be too high than too low.
Aaron Jones is always he's hard for me to pin down. I'd say 75, right below ETN.
Okay. And he is 78. It's not egregious. For his upside, I think that's definitely not a cash game play. Definitely not there. But for tournaments, he has a path to 40 points, and for 78, that's not bad.
What about Dobbs? Give me a salary.
3. Um, I'm annoyed. Like they
I can
want to
tell.
bench him so badly and they can't because guys keep getting hurt. If Lazard is back,
Yeah, but he had that sick touchdown. That's got to earn him
that's
some
true.
extra.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Good point. Good point. Good point. Yeah, sure. I would say Dobbs should be like 59.
He's 61. I think that's it. I think that's fair.
Lazard,
the
in case he
matchup.
plays, is 65. That's pretty high. Big shot Bob Tunyon is 5,000. Yeah. He has no yardage upside apparently, but I had 90 a couple weeks ago, I guess. Big shot Bob back in the menu.
I guess we'll find out what tight end looks like. We won't have Mark Andrews or Kelsey.
Thank goodness. I love those slates.
Those
honestly.
are always more fun. Yeah.
If I can justify dumpster diving, I want to do it. Let me live in the gutter. Let me embrace my environment.
Let me get 6.1 points from Foster Moreau or whatever he had.
Yeah, that hurt.
I was born in that. I was born in the Foster
Moreau. Okay, Morrow. Sorry. Okay, you had to know on Denver. What'd you see with them?
Yeah, just they're picking up the pace at least. The past 2 games, adjusted pace through week 6 was ranked them 26th. They're up to 5th over the past 2 weeks. The pass rate over expectations about average. If there's any reason to believe in like a team to be a little bit more fun, a team like Denver, I could still talk myself into if they're ever. I feel like they haven't been on the main slate in like 10 years, but
yeah,
which is probably a good thing. But
I also do think it was like nice that Russ kind of embraced the DGAF and was just like chucking nukes and seeing what would happen.
Like I think
like diplomacy of that, doing that in London, like just dropping bombs might not be the best, but like 10.4 yard ADOT, if they'll be a little bit faster, they still have like 6 delay of game penalties because they're the absolute worst. But like that's a little bit better, and that can warm me up to Dulcich, can warm me up to Judy or Sutton, I guess. So
yeah,
I think we'll have to consider them at some, just mostly because Dulcich.
I'm waiting.
I feel better about it if they're going to chuck it deep and be less slow.
I'm waiting for Sutton to be like 66 on the return to the main slate and just be like,
here we go again.
Here we go.
Just use Dulcich. I think that's the easy solution there. Okay. Let's do our salary scroll. We pull up the week 9 and main slate over on FanDuel. Go position by position and shout out salaries as they appear to us. I will also note just before this that there are only 2 afternoon games next week. That's abysmal. That's rude.
Oh.
It's Seattle, Arizona, and the Rams against the Bucks. They they called an ISO for Rams Bucks, and this is what happens. Woof.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to quarterback. What do you see there?
So again, it's a 10-game main slate. A whole lot of big names like Mahomes, Lamar, not on the main slate. So Josh Allen against the Jets, 93, I think it's similar like to Jalen Hurts this week where he was 92 and kind of in a tier of his own.
I think the Bills are more aggressive when they're playing from ahead. So
yes.
I feel like I'd feel better about Allen than I did about Hurts. I used Hurts still this week, but like I'd feel better about Allen.
I would too.
Also, I don't think they like the Jets very much. Teams like to bully the Jets in their head, which is fine. I'm pro bullying for the record, but I think that helps too. I also realize I just came out as pro bullying, so we'll walk that back. Once you're 21 or older, you're allowed to be bullied. I don't know. We'll figure this out. I'm going to workshop this. No, bullying's always bad, unless you're an NFL team. Did I backpedal on that enough?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I just saw my next mistake. Oh. I was thinking Herbert at 78 against that Atlanta defense. No Mike Williams next week, but like I could still talk myself into that. Also, Geno 75 facing the Cardinals for the second time in like 6 weeks. But
yeah,
go ahead with your thing because it's weird.
Well, it basically like I guess it's not just fun if we're literally laughing and not saying what we're seeing, but it makes sense at the top. We have Josh Allen, we have Joe Burrow at 85, we have Kyler Murray at 82, he's going to be at 82 for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. 2 is 8,000, I get it. Cousins 79, I get it. Herbert 78, I get it. And then it's like nothing really jumped out there.
Yeah.
The first thing that truly jumped off the page was Tom Brady below 7,000.
And Aaron Rodgers at 7,000.
Yeah. Derek Carr 68. So like all pocket passers, very hard to find upside, but Tom Brady at times this year has still been 8,000 or more, like 78 or higher. Tom Brady at 69 can hit 3x value. I don't know if he can still drop 40. But
I'm not using him.
In lineups where we're not using Allen, I think that we could nitpick Burrow with no Chase, Herbert with no Mike Williams, Kyler for being Kyler. I can't.
Do you know how insufferable? I'm always insufferable. Do you know how insufferable I would have been if you had showed me these salaries of not the salaries, but show me Jared Goff and Marcus Mariota with higher salaries than Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady? I'm already the worst. I'd have been much worse if I had.
Yeah, you would just become unsufferable as a result.
Become, yes.
I mean, again, we're probably not.
I'd rather use touchdown Trevor Lawrence than Tom Brady. Trevor Lawrence is 68. Tom Brady 69. I'd rather use Trevor Lawrence against the Raiders than Brady against the Rams. Do you want to do a bet?
No.
Why?
Because it's not like I'm saying I'm going to play Tom Brady. Like, I think this is egregious. I'm just saying, like, it's appealing because
he's not... he's better than Lawrence?
I think it's probably close when you compare the game environment.
Fair enough.
But Brady Godwin stacks are going to be like free.
I don't care. I'll take the Godwin part. You can have the quarterback.
No, like minimum salary quarterbacks jumping out.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, Sam Ellinger, but
it's going to be a tough week at quarterback. I think it might be just a get to Allen kind of week.
Find a way to get to Josh Allen. Yeah.
Yep. Let's go to running back. We had talked about Austin Eckler before their bye about how like his role is getting better. He's 94
against the Falcons. He's going to score 3 times again.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's fair that he's there. Do I want to pay for it? No, but like, I understand why he's there. That's the way I phrase it.
Only 6 running backs at 8,000 or higher for next week. Eckler, 94, Jacobs, 88, Dalvin, 85, Kenneth Walker, 83, Joe Mixon, 81, and Ramondre, 8,000. I don't have a whole lot of fear in not playing those guys.
I agree. So we have ETN at 76 as being the primary write down at running back so far. Aaron Jones, 78 is like fine. Like, do you feel better about Jones against Detroit or Stevenson against Indy?
Oh, Jones against Detroit.
I do too. Okay. Scrolling down further.
We know Deontay Foreman 73. He's probably going to be in the consideration set if we need to get to Allen and we don't love the superstar running backs relative to this slate.
Yeah. I think that's fair as well. JT at 68 becomes more attractive given the lack of like high-end dudes who can like make us shake in our boots a bit.
It might be like a 3-way coin flip between like Foreman, Fournette, and Taylor is like the secondary option to sort of go to at this point.
Raheem Mostert's salary went down to 65. He had Raheem Blackshear, so they popped up because I didn't do Mostert. 64% snap rate for Mostert. That's actually in line with where he was before. Like, it's not a huge deviation. I don't think he had a role reduction. He just didn't like get as much passing game work, but like we've seen him do it. So I think that Mostert at 65 is probably a name I'll be looking at again this week.
Yeah, still 50% of the routes. Mm-hmm. They just kind of were able to throw it and do whatever they wanted. So
yeah, I think part of it was like stylistically, like Detroit allows more targets to like outside receivers because of the style of defense they play. Not every team does that though. So I could see it reverting a little bit back that way this week. So I think that Mostert's on the table at 65.
I'm assuming eventually James Conner's back, but Benjamin's still a 71% snap rate, 2/3 of the routes, 7 targets.
He did fend off Darrell Williams this week too. I thought that he might see a bit less work with Williams back, but he didn't. It was the same role. He just squeezed out Keontae Ingram, just 1-for-1 replacement.
This is going to be one where Jim yells at me.
Oh, wait. Can I guess?
Sure.
Oh, Tyler Algier?
Yeah.
No.
Playing against, I might be able to get 30 yards in the Chargers.
I don't care. He did have 3 targets this week, which is more than he had the entire season entering. So I guess there's that.
I mean, he's going to get his 15 to 18 carries. in the best matchup possible on the ground.
I'm telling you now, no to a guy at 6,000. Absolutely not.
Michael Carter
No.
or Devin
Well,
Singletary?
yes to him.
Wait,
No to Michael
wait.
Carter as well, but it's to Devin Singletary.
Oh, yeah, I'm not there.
Okay. In a non-neutral script, I'm not going to do it. Okay. I don't see anything else super enticing down below 6,000. Do you?
Ronnie Rivers.
Nope. Although Kyron Williams is back this week, most likely. Kyron Williams is minimum salary. Seems like they like him a lot. I want to hear what they say about Kyron Williams, but I just want to flag that he's minimum salary, and there's a chance that could be viable potentially.
There is no reason to believe that Jonathan Taylor won't play, but Deion Jackson is 5,000.
Oh, cool.
Just a preemptive.
That game that he had was with no Nyheim Hines, correct? Did Hines play in that game?
No, they were both were like trending to play. Like they both went from like they're not going to play to like, oh no, they're going to play, and then it was by Sunday. It was like, or by Saturday night, I think it was like neither of them were playing.
The Hines thing is at least a little bit concerning, but for minimum salary, I mean, or $5,000.
Where's Hines? 59. Again, there's no reason to think that Taylor won't play.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, wide receiver Cooper Kupp is down to 9,000. That's they're listening to us at least. Hopefully he plays, but like, better than it was. There are a lot of high salary receivers.
Yeah. So this is if we're going to be open to, and there's not going to be any high salary tight ends that I can think of like based on not really looking at the.
Yeah, Taysom Hill's not in the slate.
Yeah. So it might be a like ETN, Taylor, Foreman kind of start so that you play one or two of these guys. Mostert, yeah.
Yeah. Devontae 81 seems a little bit low just because he does have a path to a ceiling, Also T Higgins, I would say.
Darn. He's up to 8,000.
Still fine, I think.
We'll learn a lot tonight, Monday night.
I've used Amon-Ra St. Brown each of the past 2 weeks. It has not worked out, but he did have 10 targets. He's $7,100 against the Packers. Could be like an Aaron Jones mini stack situation.
So if we flag these two salaries back in early September, like DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, 7,000, you'd be like, okay, cool. Like they're doing like, they weren't like first round picks. They weren't like guys that we expected the world
meeting expectations.
Like they're like, they're resurging from where they had been, but I don't know if it's quite that.
Yeah. Chris Godwin is 67 and Gabe Davis is 66. Both those guys are viable for very different reasons, very different paths to viability, but I think they're both very much in play.
Yeah, Godwin is going to be in my head-to-head lineup against you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think there's any way around that.
I will again mention Christian Kirk at $6,300. I think that game is going to be fun. I should probably check the total in that. It's 46.5. It's a weird. Yeah. I think that Christian Kirk at 63 will be intriguing, personally.
Thielen, 62.
I prefer Kirk over Thielen, but I think Thielen is in play. Dobbs, 61 against the Lions.
Yeah.
Rondale's up to 59.
I think that's a bit of a trap.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if he were to, if everyone is skeptical of him and he doesn't wind up being popular, then it's like, okay, he has like a path because he's getting enough volume and he's Curtis Samuel, and Curtis Samuel gets Seahawks 59. I'd at least consider that. But
yeah,
Garrett Wilson 58 is not bad as a bring back option for Josh Allen lineups. 115 yards this week. They did throw a bit more with no Breece Hall, so that's encouraging.
Yeah. Josh Reynolds back down to 57.
You trying to think we didn't notice? Of course we noticed. You can't cover up your sins like this.
I begrudgingly think Drake London is somewhat viable at 56.
I think somewhat viable is the only way you can phrase it. I cannot go beyond that.
Alec Pierce or Pittman.
Zay
somewhat
Jones is
viable.
55. I think I might be the only person who cares about that, but
Yeah.
oh, it's the Zay Jones revenge game. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Zay Jones, 100%.
My guy Khalif Raymond, 75 or more yards in 2 straight.
The second he caught, like he caught a downfield pass. What did he finish with?
76 yards.
I think he had that all in like the first quarter. I think he had 71 yards like right away.
Yeah.
There are so many dusty dudes in the low 5,000 range.
Denzel Mims is back, 52. I'm not serious about that, but
Can you be back if you were never there?
Denzel. Kill Harry also back, but never was there.
He had a touchdown.
I know. I'm saying he's back, but never actually was there.
He never went nowhere because there was nowhere to go. Okay, we'll figure that out. Whoa! I went to tight end. Zach Ertz is $6,600. Why is that? Who is using Zach Ertz in week 9?
That's like the Bermuda Butterfield field where like someone's got to be 12,000. So it's
no, they don't. No, they don't. He's not Zach Ertz. Yeesh.
Yeah, I'm probably not punting at tight end, but
one thing I'll say is that Devondre Campbell got banged up for the Packers, and he had a knee injury. And then something else happened. I can't remember what happened. Oh, they had a guy ejected. TJ Hawkinson is 62. He has yardage upside. That's not an awful salary for him.
No.
Gerald Everett's 58. I hate Gerald Everett. What's Keenan's salary? Is Keenan on the slate? 75. Okay. Gerald Everett's 58. I hate using Gerald Everett. He's abysmal to watch. Rooting for him is my nightmare. But he's 58. No Mike Williams. I will probably have to use him.
I mean, we should get Darren Waller back. I don't know how much that matters, but
how much is he?
He's 6,000.
Okay. I mean, I'll be stacking the daylights out of that game because I'm a moron.
Evan Ingram, 52.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Again, like Tyler Conklin, people like him a lot more than I do, coming off a 2-touchdown game, but 6 and 10.
Who likes Tyler Conklin?
I feel like I see his name like as a fun streaming.
Oh, it's a season-long thing. Yeah. We don't talk about those.
I think it's also like value DFS stuff.
But. I would also flag that Mike gets sticky. His route rate or his snap rate went back down this week. Durham Smythe played in week 7, but it seems like he was more healthy this week despite not practicing a whole lot. So Gesicki, I guess, did run 23 routes on 38 dropbacks. That's not the worst, but the snap rate went back down. So I'm not really itchy to chase his couple of touchdowns that he's had recently at $5,500.
Hasn't he like maxed out at 65 yards or something?
Probably
69 yards. Nice.
Probably around there.
He's got one game above 41 yards since he got 69 and 2 touchdowns against the Vikings.
Yeah.
He's also had a lot of good matchups recently.
I will give you credit. Noah Fant did outscore Will Dissly this week.
I said Noah Fant if there's no DK.
Oh, yeah. That's fair. But Colby Parkinson, 1 catch for 5 yards. Nailed that one. Yeah, I think for me at tight end, the primary thing that like entices me would be Hawkinson at 62 or Everett at 58. I think that's probably where I'm looking primarily.
Yeah, as much as I can make a case for Evan Ingram. It's a bet against any sort of upside from any other tight ends because he doesn't really have substantial upside.
His upside is better than I gave him credit for.
But it's not like realistically huge. 20 points or anything.
Yeah.
Probably Hawkinson, Everett.
I think they're the primary two. Yeah. Okay. A note to future me. After breaking down week 8 and taking a brief look ahead to week 9, what are you reminding yourself as we get set for this next week?
That Josh Allen has a huge ceiling.
Yes.
And
I think that could be your only note, honestly.
I don't want to forget that. And even when they're big favorites.
I think it's especially important to note that, given that like I want to dig into the higher salary backs to make sure I'm not overlooking something where like right now I feel like, okay, I can afford to spend the mid range and not really get super high on the high salary guys. I want to dig in to make sure that's the case. I think that'll wind up being the case after investigation, but my note to future me is dig into the high salary backs and make sure I am okay to spend up at quarterback with Josh Allen and pepper the mid range again at running back.
Love it.
Okay. That is all that we have here for this week 8 recap podcast. Again, though, a lot of other good stuff on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Our week 9 preview coming up on Thursday. That'll also be live on the FanDuel YouTube page, 10 a.m. Eastern, as is this podcast, 10 a.m. Eastern every Monday and Thursday on the FanDuel YouTube page. Go subscribe there. Hit the like button if you are watching, and also subscribe on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Were you signaling 10?
Yeah.
It's not week 10.
I did it wrong first.
It's week 9.
It's 10 a.m.
Oh. It's like, don't skip weeks on me. I can't do that just yet. We're not there yet. Yeah. Subscribe to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed with PGA coming up tomorrow for some tournament I have not researched yet. You're a Coba. Brandon, people have questions for you on Twitter. Where can they find you there?
I'm on Twitter sometimes, rarely, at Goodula13, GDULA13.
And I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your NFL DFS lineups for Monday night between the Bengals and the Browns. We'll talk to you once again Thursday to get you set for week number 9. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.